Recording in progress.
Seconds tick. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 o'clock, and we will call this meeting of the Richland County Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee to order. If you will take the roll.
Teresia,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Barron,
Here.
Aline,
Here.
Mackey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And just also recognizing we almost have a full house for the rest of council. So recognizing just from the far end over here, my colleague, Miss English, Miss Dozier's on the, yes, and Miss Little. You're on the committee. I'm trying to recognize the folks who are not on the committee who are here.
I know.
Okay.
Apologies, I'm gonna be quiet.
Thank you, and Ms. Newton. So thank you all for being interested in this committee and attending today. That'll bring us to item 2, the approval of the minutes. Those can be found on pages 5 through 7 for our May 6th, 2025 committee meeting. Is there a motion regarding the minutes?
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Teresia,
Yes.
Weaver. Yes. Barron,
Yes.
Aline,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. That'll bring us to item 3, the adoption of our agenda. Is there any staff modifications to the agenda?
I've received no request.
Thank you. Anything from the committee? Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thanks. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Teresia,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Aline,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Item 4 is an item for items for information. That these will help give us some context about just in general affordable housing initiatives throughout the county. 4A is the Government and Community Outreach, Community Development Division updates. Those are on pages 8 through 12 of our packet. 4A1 is the Richland County Homeownership Assistance, or RCHAP. 4A2 is the $3 million. Is it $3 million or $3.5 million?
Well, I think it's gonna be even more now, because we just.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Sorry. Anyway, so 4A2 is the notice of funding availability, gosh, for affordable housing projects. And 4A3 is Operation One Touch update. Would staff like to update us on any of that, especially the notice of funding availability item?
Yes, ma'am. And so, Madam Chair, I'm going to ask that you recognize Ms. Callison Richardson, and if you do that, after she comes down, I'll have just a quick remark for you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Richardson?
So, one of the things that the team is aware of, that this body and county council has been having conversations just about trying to make an impact in our community related to affordable housing. And one of the things you've also said is you want to make sure that we're connected when we're spending county resources. And so what we're doing here today is providing you information related to resources that we're doing, have access to kind of bolster our overall plan as we look at what kind of funding that we'll spend on affordable housing. So with that being said, I'll certainly end my remarks and turn it over to Ms. Richardson.
Thank you.
Now that I have been recognized.
you know, we just pop in here, so it's just like not my normal process. So thank you all for having us. Yeah, so I think like Mr. Brown said, my goal with providing this was just to let you know what kind of existing infrastructure we already have in affordable housing, and to let you know, what we're already trying to do, what's opening up, what sort of funds we have. This, of course, we're the same team that we have the CDBG grant, which we talked about before, and then Emergency Solutions, which is the homelessness group. So the Home Investment Partnership is the HUD grant that's just focused on really just affordable housing development. So all of this funding is, entitlement funding that comes annually from HUD. We did get our letter last week that we are renewed for one more year. And so we're really glad all of our awards went up just a little bit. So we have a new award coming of $793,000. That's a home investment partnership. So the idea of the NOFA that will go out, we are sitting currently on $3.5 million, and it's a combination of home and CDBG. And then now we'll have another $793, not the full amount, because some of that pays for staff, some of that will pay for some other things, but so we're going to be looking at over $4 million that we'll be putting out a call for projects as well.
Thank you. Questions from the committee or other council members? Yes, Ms. Mackey.
Thank you. When you say we will be putting it out, can you give a time range? Does it all go out at once? Is it broken
Yes.
down into phases?
So ours will go out June 1st is our goal to put out the notice of funding availability. And the way that we structure it is we'll have 2 orientation or info sessions for partners to come to learn about the parameters of what HUD money can go to, what kind of projects we're looking for, what areas are eligible, and we'll kind of go through the ins and outs of that. There are 2 dates already set. June, let's see, the NOFA one. Let me make sure I have it here. There's so many things. Well, I think it's June 16th, and I'll follow up and get that to you. But so it's coming in June. And essentially how it happens is we basically call for all kinds of projects. And it's a first come, first served
June
situation.
16th and June 18th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One is in person and one is virtual. And so we will essentially, it's just opening the door. So our process is rolling, which is different than the block grant where they have a deadline and it's, scoring committee and it's still competitive, but it really operates more on a first come, first served situation. And we have a very strict underwriting process that we have to do with HUD to make sure that it's kind of meeting all of those benchmarks. And then any project that the staff recommends that we think is meeting kind of our criteria, we'll bring it to this committee for you guys to kind of essentially approve to move forward if we feel like something's ready. And so June will open, and then it'll just be rolling until the funds are gone.
Thank you for that. And
One more just to follow up and confirm. It is written here, but I just want to say it aloud and confirm. The total amount of this funding is for home ownership in unincorporated Richland County. Is that correct?
So the NOFA that will go out, that's separate from the down payment assistance program, right? So the $4 million can either be for rental. It's really all units. So it could create rental units or home ownership opportunity units. It could be new construction, it could be rehab, it could involve acquisition. It can do a lot of different things. For HUD, what's really important is kind of making sure we have partners that have the capacity and that track record of what it looks like to monitor those over a long period of time, because there's an affordability period. So they're required to keep it for low-income folks to reach those rental rates for anywhere from 15 to 30 years. So a lot of times, even private developers who could apply, it could be a private developer, it could be nonprofits, it could be faith-based organizations, but they've got to show that kind of experience, demonstrated experience in managing these kind of projects. So not just developing the unit, but ensuring the occupancy standards are correct, ensuring that the unit stays in good condition for that whole thing. So if it is a private entity and they're not wanting to manage that property long-term, they need to partner with a local nonprofit that would kind of absorb that unit into their portfolio kind of going forward, unless it's just a home ownership. And then we just would do a restrictive covenant on the deed and keep it restricted for a period of time.
And I guess the key part of my question was unincorporated Richland
Unincorporated.
County. So is the total amount of funding for unincorporated Richland County?
Yes. At present, we don't have any municipalities participating in our HUD program, so this really has to only be for unincorporated for this set of money. Now, future HUD money, if Eastover or Blythewood or Forest Acres decides to participate in our HUD programs, then the next allocation that would come, they could be included in that. But all of this funding that we have built up is only for unincorporated. Thank you.
And I think, because you mentioned Blythewood, I mean, Blythewood is a municipality, but there are a large number of people who live in Blythewood who don't live in Blythewood proper.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
it still is, I didn't want folks to think if you live in Blythewood that you can still.
Right. So the
Alright.
unit, the property itself just cannot be within the municipal boundaries of a small, town in the county.
Thank you.
I'll recognize Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm trying to write down and make sure I understand these numbers. So the new HUD grant you said was $793,000, if I got that right. And then you said you're sitting on $3.5 million. My question on the $3.5 million, was that money that's just built up over the years, or is that?
It is.
Okay.
So if you imagine, so there's an annual award that's coming anywhere between 600 and 900,000, just depending on the year. So with the Community Development Office, there was a lot of turnover during COVID, and a lot of these programs just shut down. And when the funding comes, it comes every year, but we have up to 7 years to expend those funds. And you'll see a strategy with a lot of communities. They'll kind of build it up and then kind of release something. So with our staff, with the turnover, a lot of this just was on hold. And then when our team came in, I've been here 2.5 years, we had to focus on the block grant because there's a test with the block grant from HUD that you can't sit on that much. On home, you can hold it for a little while. So we got the block grant really kind of positioned well over the last 2 years. And now the focus is like, okay, now let's leverage what's going on with the home grant. And so most of this is home money, but we also have some block grant money that we're going to add to this, so which is why it's 3.5. So it's $3 million on home, about $500,000 on CDBG, and then the new award we just got comes in October. So we'll kind of add that in there too.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. One of the things that I just wanted to kind of bring up is that, with the home grant, it seems like there's a kind of a lot of flexibility in the kinds of the kinds of projects, the kinds of homes that can be supported, which is different than the Richland County Homeownership Assistance, which has some restrictions on it that are, it has to be a single family dwelling, it has to be within a certain age, that kind of stuff. I don't know if you're able to speak to this today, but is there, from where you sit, is there any need or opportunity for flexibility in the Richland County Homeownership Assistance Program? I'll just ask that question.
I think flexibility is always welcome with, folks that reach out to our office for support, even our minor home repair. You'll see that's the third program there at the bottom, Operation One Touch. It's also limited to single family home dwellings and certain ages. And so we get calls from folks all the time that are interested in maybe purchasing a townhouse or, something different that just isn't allowed in that. So ours, yes, the HUD stuff is definitely more restrictive. Even some of it is because when you, like the 1978 rule, so after 1978, obviously that's your lead-based paint date. So what that means is that anytime you put HUD money into a unit, you are required by law to mitigate the lead there. So you can't just have, like if you buy a house in Rosewood, you can say, oh, I'm aware that lead could be in here, but I can still buy my house and it's okay. But if HUD money goes into one of those projects, there's a requirement that the mitigation has to happen. So in order to try to make the process as efficient as possible, it's just better for us not to touch those houses because it could just drag the process out for years or make it just too expensive. And then another thing is one of the, other rules we kind of have in place with development. So with that NOFA, we right now don't have the capacity to manage a development that is going to be more than 11 units. And that's like, why is there 11? Because if you go to 12, then this requires something called the Davis-Bacon Act, and it becomes this huge monitoring thing about how much people are being paid wage-wise. And so what happens with HUD money is that there are these regulations that get triggered at different levels. And it makes our work run slower than we would like, but we are always trying to make it more efficient.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? One thing I'll just say is I know that for a lot of people, something like a condo or a townhome could be much more affordable. And if you're an older person or a person with a smaller family or just getting started out in your career, those could be great opportunities to live somewhere that's affordable and decent. And so just curiosity about that. Yes, I think I saw Ms. Mackey wanted to speak.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you. For the, gotta get the program right. For the HUD funding money, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, with the amount that we have, is there some formula that they use to say, okay, with this, we anticipate you should be able to put, 100 people in homes? So like, is there a way that you judge to determine if you are best utilizing this money?
Yeah, so HUD has, we have to do subsidy layering with so we have underwriting and subsidy layering, and they have a maximum level of investment you can put per unit. So those are some of the things we'll be looking at when we get the applications. We're going to be looking at how much home money are they asking us to put in per unit, and if it's too high, and it'll be very clear in all the guidelines so they'll know. And so HUD is always saying that, hey, and a lot of times they'll say, you can put this much in an apartment, you can put this much in a house, and then that will kind of be our maximum amount we can invest. So that's why they have to come with some kind of leverage. Usually they're coming with a 25% match. They want HUD money to be the last money in. They want to see HUD money used as kind of that gap financing for some of these projects.
I would, Madam Chair, and I'm saying this, I think, for staff, I would like to figure out once this program and some of these other programs are up and started, how we can incorporate those results into our dashboard, our public dashboard that addresses I can't remember the exact wording that we used for the goal, but we talked about having a diversification and availability of homes and infrastructure. And I think it would be good if we can figure out how to be able to show this and report out on the dashboard of what the results look like from this funding alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on item 4, those items?
Mr. Ratio.
Yes, Ms. Gretchen, Ms. Barron.
So in this, I don't know if this is premature in our conversation, but when I was reading over the packet, we have affordable housing programs already established. I know that the funding source is, federal funds. And as or I'll just say for me, in my day-to-day life, looking at adjusting budgets based upon federal funds or the lack thereof, potentially, could we utilize some of the funds that we already have set aside for affordable housing and matching it or supporting what is already existing to really bolster what you all are doing already? Because the federal guidelines are established, they're solid. Y'all are good at doing what needs to be done to get it accomplished. I think at the end of the day, for me as a council person, I wanted to see us address affordable housing. We are addressing affordable housing. We have structures and processes already in place, whether it's set from the federal government or something that we create. And some of the conversation that we had at the last meeting was having structures and policies and procedures in place. When I read the packet, I hear you talking today, it sounds like those things are already here, already existing. And if it is a good match, I'm wondering would it not be beneficial for this body to look at dispersing our funds to continue to support the work that's already going? And I don't know, you know, when it comes to federal fund, it's really line by line, it's very detailed. But if it's something that we feel like is a good match, could you speak to that? If it's a good match to take our general fund dollars and matching it with federal dollars?
I think, yes, absolutely. There are going to be, I think there are great opportunities where they could work together for sure. I don't know if I would put all of it attached to HUD because it's just going to naturally move a little slower. And our team has really found efficiencies, and I think we're getting better, but you're going to naturally create, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do environmental reviews, but you're going to sometimes bog down the process with environmental reviews and labor requirements, and like we have Build America, Buy America requirements now, and so that kind of slows down procurement. And so, but absolutely, there are going to be some great projects I think that will come our way in this NOFA, and it may be something where you go, you know, we could leverage some of our county money, the general fund money, into that project. With down payment assistance, we do have a great infrastructure for doing that. And we can serve, like the LMI chart, those are the people that we're serving. But anybody who's a public servant that makes a little bit over that threshold wouldn't be eligible for our program. But we have the system set up to do the application and the deed work and the closing, and it would probably move a lot faster than a HUD down payment assistance would, because there's not going to be as many rules. So that's something you could look at to see if. But the one thing I will say as a grant person, and I know you'll appreciate this, our team is funded only by the HUD grants. And so our ability to work, we're not supposed to be doing general county work. There would have to be some kind of cost share with the staff or something to allow that, because we really are, right now, we're a dedicated HUD team. As far as future funding, so we did receive the award that our funding for the next program year, we're always a year behind the budget, federal budget. So we, as a team, have funding this coming October for a year, October 1 through September 30th. But we are not currently in the budget, the federal budget that's been just moved out of committee and is in the House of Representatives. So if it passes in its state as it is, there are not HUD grants in that budget. So we may know in the next couple of weeks, months, whether or not there's going to be future HUD funding, at least in the immediate, beyond the next year.
And so if I may just continue that point, I heard you say, and I didn't want us to, take all the funds and put them in one pot, but I do think that there is an opportunity for this body to look at a way to continue the work of affordable housing should we receive cuts from the federal government. And I think it's forward thinking for us to look at it from this perspective in some way. It may not be all $4 million, but to look at it, because one of the main conversations that we had was, number one, what is it that we want to accomplish with these dollars, with the 7 items that were presented? And then number two, once we had identified those areas, then we're talking about policies, procedures, who's going to do what, all the things. And all the things, to me, appear to be set up already, which takes one challenge off of our table. And now it's more of, how do we want to disperse the funds? How do we want to prioritize the funds? In what pockets do we want to put the money? How much? And so I'm always grateful for your presentations, because they're thorough and it gives us an opportunity to really know what it is that you do at a whole nother level. But for me, it's opening my eyes further to say that we had a conversation in some of the other committees where we started setting aside dollars because we were anticipating budget challenges. Here we are. I think this is a way to continue to do those same things. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I recognize Ms. Newton, I just want to say I've seen a lot of attentiveness and head nods from the back row. And I just want to say how I appreciate that we've had to do work to ensure that we have the staff in place to do this kind of work. And so thanks to everybody here for making sure that happens. Ms. Newton?
Thank you. And I'm not sure if this is the right point on the agenda to make this, but related to Councilwoman Barron's point, I do think that it makes a lot of sense to look at areas that are established, areas that we can amplify, areas that that are proven. And I certainly hear all of your caveats about some of the red tape that we could encumber ourselves with. And so on that front, one of the things that I would also love it if we could consider in some of these discussions is, are there other shovel-ready projects? Maybe it's not with the county, maybe it's with another proven partner, but when you look at how can you make $4 million go as far as it can go, sometimes it's how can you get somebody over that last mile, or sometimes those last few steps to get over the finish line. So much like we have opportunities to invest with the county, there may be opportunities with other proven organizations who, again, have something shovel-ready. And, a lot of the foundations that I work with use the language, but for. What is something that you couldn't do but for the funding that you receive? And I think that that's also an option for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the body on these items? Yes. Mm-hmm.
I just lost I know what I was going to say. I do think the fact that these home funds have built up, there's just a real opportunity there to sort of see how could you leverage it together, so you're not just talking about $4 million, you're really talking about $8 million. And so when we get our NOFA out, there could be something that comes up that really is we can take it further because maybe there's some leveraging of both sets. And then with that, we have really great affordable housing partners, that there are a lot of nonprofits and private, developers who know how to do this. And so I definitely wouldn't want to see our projects competing with your projects for partnership, or because I think we would be working with a lot of the same players anyway. And so I think it just makes sense to try to see, are there places where it overlaps? And certainly welcome the opportunity to talk about that further if anybody wants to kind of get really in the weeds. I think HUD's great. I love what we're doing. It definitely does. You just have to manage expectations, because there is you have to be just very diligent, and there's a lot of accountability, and that's a good thing. It just moves a little slower than you may want to in some ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there is opportunity for sure. Okay. That will bring us, I believe, to item 5, our items for discussion and action. And if the committee members and my other colleagues on council will notice, one of the things that we're really trying to get to the heart of is what is the intent and will of this body. I hear what my colleague Ms. Barron says about, things that are already kind of set up. And I also am thinking to the future in terms of, if we are looking at helping folks maybe with buying homes, or if we're helping underhoused folks or first-time home buyers. So I really appreciate this exercise that was put before us, and so wanted to bring everyone's attention to the last page of the packet, which is page 15, where we have laid out, or where staff has laid out 5 questions for us. It is 5 questions, yes. 5 questions for us. Yes, 5 questions for us. And thought we could take the last part of our meeting together and work through these questions together, or respond to these questions together. ACA Jensen, do you want to kind of speak to this first, and then we'll discuss from there?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, this is something that probably all of you have seen in your professional writing course in college. But essentially, this is just a simple exercise to help focus your thoughts. And so I'm not going to take any time other than to say that the idea is simply to come to a consensus over who your target audience is, what you want to do, how fast you want to do it, how many people you want to help. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And so I believe, what Ms. Richardson shared with us in terms of what the county's already able to do in terms of funding, what we're thinking about doing with accommodations tax, funding for down payment assistance. I'd just like to think about maybe there's kind of two ways to think about this. One is what we're already doing. We're already doing well, like Ms. Barron said, and then also to think about where the gaps might be. And one of the things that comes to my mind when when considering this issue is I'm always thinking about particularly working folks who might be not even necessarily the working poor, but people who are employed at levels that we may think about as a good salary or a good amount of money, and yet they're still spending well over half of their paycheck monthly on their rent or whatever it is. So that's really where my heart is, to try to figure out where to support folks who are in that gap, to ensure that there's we're not just sort of subsidizing, but helping to create housing supply that is naturally affordable for these folks. I'll open up to the rest of my colleagues to let me know what your thoughts are in terms of intentions. Yes, Ms. Mackey.
I appreciate the worksheet. I think it's a great activity. Not sure if I'll be able to complete it in this time frame. I'm usually a more thoughtful person and need a little bit more time. But I will say, from Callison's last comments, I'm glad we have the information that was shared in the beginning, because I think it allows the committee to think about things a little differently. And I think going, another step to even some of the things Ms. Barron talked about is, and what you mentioned, Callison, was when folks respond, we might get a lot of additional detail back from different organizations. And the reality is, you all can only work with but so many. And I look at that as saying, okay, that I think is an opportunity of, well, if they're working with 2 or 3, then there could be 2 or 3 others out there that are good organizations for us to partner with, to then also address some of these same things, right? And I agree, focusing on the areas that you're talking about with working families, but there's different ways that different people do it, right? And some of it is maybe loan assistance, some of it is, helping somebody with down payment, some of it is just helping you building a new home. Like I spoke with Habitat, and they talked about what they do to help people get in homes, which is a different kind of approach as well. And so I like the idea of utilizing some of what they may get back in their responses to address the categories in which you're talking about.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, we have this built-in eye to Richland County Housing, and we should definitely take advantage of that information and maybe be able to respond. And maybe that's how we can be nimble, because this money that we have is not tied to any restrictions like the other funds are. And so when there's an opportunity to step in, there could be a quick turnaround in getting something going. Other questions, comments from Ms. Barron?
Yeah, so I definitely can appreciate this worksheet, and I started jotting down ideas and thoughts. But as I started jotting down these ideas and thoughts, I'm really, I see you grabbed your pen. I'm not sharing. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, because I feel like this is, and I'm just going to state it and try to clean it up later. I just think that we're having lots of conversation and healthy dialogue, but we're really not getting anywhere. It's almost like a hamster on a wheel to me. And I think part of it is not that we don't know what we want, but I do think that we've placed ourselves on time restraints during our meeting time that really, it really handicaps the progress that we can make. And so I would like to see us spend a little bit more time, whether it's in a meeting session or people sitting with this document for a little while, turning it in to the clerk's office, and we create some type of, running list, and then bringing it back as a discussion, giving staff an opportunity to review what it is that we've submitted, and then starting the conversation, whether it's a work session or, whatever needs to take place. But I look at the clock and we're starting this conversation and we've got about 25 minutes. And it's just, I don't think it's time well spent or the attention that we need to spend with this, because I want us to get it right. And I know we might have to do it a couple of times, but we've been very thoughtful thus far in how we do things. When it comes to this $4 million, we've got some great ideas now on the table. Now taking this document and having maybe all council members to provide input, then we bring it back and flesh it out. Because, just kind of throwing out ideas. Today, we're throwing out ideas, and then we still don't have a resolve. That's my suggestion, Madam Chair, that may lend for a more fruitful conversation.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. And let me just say, you are the GOAT when it comes to getting a hold of a committee and scheduling a 2-hour session to just get the work done that we need to get done. And so I am inspired by that and am entirely willing to convene. Entirely willing to take that suggestion and schedule some longer time so that we can dig in together. Other comments from my colleagues? Okay. Anything from staff in response to what we've heard today?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If
Yes.
I recognize.
Yes, ACA Jensen.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly. This is a big topic. This isn't something that, if affordable housing was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's not an easy topic. And so I commend you on it, and we're here to support you.
Thank you. Chair Mackey.
Just one more question. I'm glad that we have this department here. Just to be sure, there are no other departments that have funds that are addressing housing that we are not aware of outside of this department. Is that correct?
ACA Jensen.
Thank you. No, ma'am, not that I'm aware of. We have the state has now allowed us to use some of our discretionary, what do we call it? I can't think of the name of it now, what we call it here. But it's the funds that we collect from visitors and so forth.
Accommodation tax?
Yes.
Yes.
Some of that can now be used for that, obviously, but really,
Yes.
other than that, this is what you have to work with.
Okay, I just want to make sure there were no other hidden programs that we didn't know about that were operating successfully that hadn't been shared.
Not that I'm aware of, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, Ms. Barron.
So I think that if we are going to move forward with the suggestion that I made, I would like for us to put some timelines and as far as when do we need to submit what and to whom. I think that would be helpful. And then paint some realistic expectations for our clerk's office and our other supporting staff as to what we want to see take place. That way we're all moving in tandem, going and knowing exactly where we're going and what the expectations are.
Thank you. Mr. Weaver, did you want to be recognized?
Oh, I just want to say I get the gold star because I've already done my homework tonight. So I'm turning it in before the meeting's over. So y'all get on it. Thank you.
If it's not typed, you can't turn it in.
I think there's probably an app for that where you can scan it and it'll do that. So we will work with the clerk and work with the members of council. I would say that I would like to have this, in the month of June, I would like to have this done where we would all have our priorities turned in to the clerk's office, and that we would convene this committee within one of the two opportunities for council to meet, I guess 3 opportunities for council to meet in the month of June. Right? Because we'll have 3 Tuesdays where we will meet. So we'll look at those Tuesdays and come up. No? We can? Okay, great.
So,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'm calendar driven. So
you.
can you give us a date when we're submitting this to the clerk's office?
Let's look out 2 weeks. So by June the 3rd, we will have our priorities turned in. And then it looks like on Tuesday, June the 17th, we have a lighter agenda day or a lighter meeting day that date, which may be a good opportunity for this body to come together for a longer session where we can really do a deep dive. Yes, ACA
Madam
Jensen.
Chair, I
Is
will
that
be
too
out
tight?
of,
Okay.
that's the week of June 19th, and I will be out of town that week. My
Got it.
apologies.
That's Juneteenth weekend. Okay, Juneteenth week. Okay. Okay, we will have to look at, we do have also the State of the Penny on the 12th. It's potential possibility to meet before that. Could that work for?
And we coordinate this after the meeting? That'd be
Yes,
great.
yes,
Thank you.
Well, just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what expectations were for turning in homework and for being prepared to meet together. Okay, thank you. So given that, unless there's any further discussion just on your thoughts about what's been presented so far, that'll bring us to, I believe, item 6.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we'll take the vote to adjourn.
Teratio,
Yes?
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Aline,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.